Before there was Christianity, before there was even a Bible, humanity was already whispering the same name 3 times. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But what if that rhythm didn't start with the church? What if the church just gave it a name? You stand inside an ancient temple whose air tastes of frankincense and history. The walls breathe warmth. Their painted figures seem to move when the flames tremble. 3 of them stare back at you: Osiris, Isis, and Horus. A resurrected king, a divine mother, and a falcon-headed heir. 1 family, 1 force, 3 faces of a single mystery. The pattern feels older than the carvings, older even than language. A father who rules, a son who redeems, a spirit or mother that gives life. Centuries before anyone whispered Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, this rhythm already pulsed through marble and myth. Was that coincidence or prophecy hiding in disguise? You run your hand along the cold relief, the limestone whispering against your skin. In Babylon, another triad waits: Anu, Enlil, Ea, sky, air, and water. In India, the Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, create, preserve, and destroy in an eternal circle. 3 gods, 1 breath. Humanity dreaming in triplicate. Why 3? Why not 1 colossal deity or 10,000 minor ones? Because 1 is isolation, 2 is tension, but 3 dances, 3 completes. Pythagoras once called it the perfect number, beginning, middle, end. Even mathematics bowed before its symmetry. You sense that perfection in the stillness. The ancients weren't just counting, they were composing reality. To them, divinity was a triangle, stable, balanced, impossible to topple. Unity through multiplicity, order through motion. Early Christians would later inherit that geometry without realizing it. Some of their own teachers, Clement of Alexandria among them, admitted that pagans carried dim glimpses of divine truth, fragments of revelation scattered before the dawn. Perhaps, he said, the wisdom of Egypt and Greece were seeds planted by the same hand that would one day raise the cross. Yet to Jewish ears, that suggestion rang like heresy. The Shema still thundered across the desert. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, not 2, not 3, never 3. The God of Abraham was indivisible, jealous, whole. Still, the imagery refused to die. Horus on Isis's lap mirrors Madonna and Child so precisely it feels intentional. Their halos, circles of light, predate the Christian word for holiness itself. Maybe the new faith didn't erase the old vision, it baptized it. Picture an early believer in Alexandria. He passes a temple still fragrant with incense, glances at statues of mother and child, and whispers, "Our God is greater, but perhaps not so different." Religion rarely conquers by force alone. It survives by translation. The church learned quickly to speak to pagans, echo their music. Even some early sanctuaries copied the triple symmetry of Egyptian altars: Father on one side, Son on the other, Spirit between. Marketing disguised as revelation. Outside critics mocked it all. 3 gods in one, they sneered. You've only traded marble idols for metaphysical ones. And maybe they had a point. Even believers stumbled when explaining how unity could contain conversation. Their logic stretched until it trembled like glass, but they kept trying. Because underneath the theology hid something profoundly human, a yearning for balance, for relationship, for a universe that breathes in harmony. Step outside again. The temple behind you fades into dusk. The stars scatter like crushed gems over the Nile. Somewhere, a priest chants a hymn older than empire, 3 beats repeating into the dark. 1, 2, 3. Long before Christianity, that cadence already ruled the human imagination. By the time the cross appeared, the number 3 had become sacred grammar. The question, you realize, isn't whether the Trinity was copied from paganism. It's whether the human soul itself is wired to find divinity in pattern. Maybe Christianity didn't steal the idea, maybe it fulfilled it. The torches flicker out. The idols stare through shadow, their silence heavy with secrets. And as the desert wind gathers and the gods retreat into stone, another sound rises far to the east, a single voice calling to the one who has no image, no partner, no equal. The world is about to change, from 3s to 1, from myth to faith, from pattern to proclamation. The wind shifts. You stand at the edge of a river that no longer remembers its name. Its waters slow, black, and shimmering with starlight. Around you rise the ghosts of empires, Thebes, Babylon. Their temples crumble, but their theology still hums beneath the sand. Everywhere you look, the divine refuses to travel alone. Before the cross, there were triads. In Thebes, it was Amun, Mut, and Khonsu, father, mother, and son, ruling heaven and earth in harmony. In Memphis, Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertem carried creation through the ages. Each city had its holy family, each one mirroring the same sacred symmetry. The gods were cosmic, but they also looked like you. They loved, fought, created, and even wept. The human heart had been built into heaven's design. You walk through a temple wall etched with faded colors. A god hands a crown to his son while the mother blesses them both. Father, mother, child. One divine essence unfolding in 3 expressions. To ancient eyes, that pattern wasn't superstition, it was physics. Life, death, and renewal were threads of the same rope. Break one, and everything frayed. Historians call these triads myth, but their persistence suggests something deeper. In Babylon, Anu ruled the heavens, Enlil the air, Ea the waters, 3 forces, 1 command. In India, the Trimurti of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva spun creation, preservation, and destruction into one eternal wheel. You start to realize that across thousands of miles and languages, humanity has always spoken the same prayer with different names. Maybe 3 wasn't a number. Maybe it was structure. To the Egyptians, balance itself required it. They had a phrase, Zep Tepi, the first time, the instant chaos became order. One God created, one sustained, one judged the dead. Life, death, rebirth. Beginning, middle, end. The holy geometry of existence. Even Pythagoras, centuries later, would whisper that 3 was perfect because it resolved tension. 1 is solitude. 2 is opposition. 3 reconciles. Perhaps that's why the human mind, left alone with mystery, keeps drawing triangles in the sand. And as you trace one yourself, you can almost feel another story waiting behind it. Because when Christianity finally rose, its message wasn't born in a vacuum. It arrived in a world where people already understood 3 as the rhythm of the cosmos. They baptized it, not invented it. Even early rituals carried echoes of older waters. Egyptian priests dipped their fingers 3 times before blessing their people. Later, converts would do the same, only now they'd call it the sign of the cross. Coincidence? Or continuity wearing new robes? You brush dust from a cracked statue of Amun, the hidden one. His worshippers said he was invisible, unknowable, beyond comprehension, yet manifest in countless forms. The phrase could have been written by a Christian centuries later. The one who manifests in many, a perfect paradox. But not everyone could stomach it. For the Jews, these ideas smelled like idolatry wrapped in poetry. The Shema was their pulse. The Lord is one. Their ancestors had buried enough gods to know how quickly plurality turns to chaos. For them, these triads weren't signs of wisdom. They were echoes of temptation. Now imagine being a Jewish follower of Jesus in Alexandria. You walk past temples thick with incense. You hear philosophers debating logos and emanations. You listen to priests singing hymns to triple deities. How do you explain your new faith without sounding exactly like them? You'd say, our God is not three gods, but one. You'd try, He was Father in creation, Son in redemption, Spirit in comfort. And yet your words would feel borrowed. The rhythm is too familiar. The melody is ancient. Across oceans, the same melody plays in Sanskrit and cuneiform, Atman and Brahman. Sky, air, water, father, mother, child. It's as if creation itself keeps stuttering in threes, unable to express divinity any other way. Maybe that's because existence itself depends on relationships. Past, present, future, solid, liquid, gas, birth, life, death. Three, everywhere you look. Even the atom, a tiny universe of protons, neutrons, electrons, seems to hum with Trinity. Perhaps the ancients weren't wrong. They were just reaching for the same truth from different corners of the world. You pause beside a column, its hieroglyphs half-eaten by time. Somewhere in those fading symbols, a priest once described his God as the one who is three, the three who is one. It reads almost like prophecy. But there's another whisper too, a warning. Because where philosophy finds symmetry, faith finds scandal. The Jews, fierce guardians of one God, would soon face the impossible question. If the Lord is one, what do you do with a man who calls himself his son? That question will burn through centuries like a torch, passed from temple to church. And the next stop on your journey lies far from these stone gods and river hymns. The marble of Greece is waiting, cold, precise, and ready to turn faith into philosophy.
Marble replaces sand beneath your feet. The scent of incense fades into olive oil and ink. You're no longer in the shadow of temples. You're standing in the courtyard of a Greek academy, where thought itself has become a kind of prayer. Here, divinity isn't carved in stone, it's drawn in logic. You watch a teacher crouch in the dust, tracing a triangle with a reed. 3 points, he says, one shape, difference without division. His students nod as if they've glimpsed a secret. You realize that in Greece, geometry is theology in disguise. This world worships through reason. It's quieter than Egypt, colder than Babylon, but no less sacred. The Greeks still chase the same question the Egyptians asked in temples and the Babylonians in hymns. How can something infinite exist in parts? Pythagoras had called 3 perfect, not for superstition, but for structure. Plato turned that perfection into philosophy. In his Timaeus, he wrote of a divine craftsman, the demiurge, who shaped the universe according to eternal patterns. Beneath him lay 2 more realities, the realm of forms and the world soul. A trinity of sorts, source, pattern, and life. Centuries later, Christians would stumble upon those same words and recognize their rhythm. Creator, Word, Spirit. You walk between marble columns where students debate beneath grapevines. The air hums with argument. The cosmos, one says, is a living being, an image of the divine itself. Another insists, the soul of the world is the breath of the gods. They're not worshiping idols anymore, they're worshiping ideas. And then, out of this philosophical fire, a single spark leaps forward: Logos. To the Stoics, Logos was divine reason, the order that binds chaos. To philosophers, it was the silent mathematics of the universe. To poets, it was the whisper that made creation sing. So when John's Gospel begins with, "In the beginning was the Word," Logos, "and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," every Greek reader must have sat upright. The line connected Hebrew revelation with Greek reason like two ends of a broken bridge finally meeting. That one sentence became the hinge of history. Early Christian thinkers saw Plato and Pythagoras not as heretics, but prophets who had wandered near the truth without naming it. Justin Martyr even called Socrates and Plato Christians before Christ. They had reasoned their way toward revelation. And yet, beneath that intellectual reverence, something dangerous was forming. The Greeks loved unity, but they also adored hierarchy. For Plato, the universe was a ladder, the one at the top, perfect and unknowable. Below it, nous, the divine mind, then psyche, the world soul. One reality, three emanations, like light refracting through crystal. You tilt your head, it feels eerily familiar. Later philosophers like Plotinus would polish this into Neoplatonism, the one, the intellect, and the soul. A trinity again, abstract, elegant, bloodless. Plotinus claimed that a person ascended through these levels in contemplation, they could merge with the divine. It was mysticism written in algebra. When Christianity spread through this world, it couldn't ignore these ideas. Converts brought their philosophy with them. The church borrowed their language, but changed its heart. The One became the Father. The Logos became the Son. The soul became the Spirit. Same architecture, different inhabitant. Was that plagiarism or translation? A bishop in Alexandria once explained it this way: "The philosophers spoke in symbols, we speak in revelation." Perhaps the truth had always been hiding in the geometry. They had just misnamed the sides of the triangle. Still, the harmony was fragile. To the Jews, this all smelled like idolatry in academic robes. To the Greeks, it sounded like poetry that refused to pick a category. But to the early Christians, caught between both worlds, it was salvation. One student says softly, "If God is love, then love requires relationship. A solitary God cannot love." The words settle like dust in sunlight. Love, to exist, needs plurality. From that logic, the Trinity practically invents itself. But the problem is clear. If you push too far toward plurality, you lose monotheism. Too far toward unity, and you lose love. The earliest believers were walking a philosophical tightrope between blasphemy and coherence. Even as they prayed, they argued. Even as they worshipped one God, they felt three presences: a voice above them, a man beside them, a breath within them. You linger in the marble library, scrolls stacked like pillars of thought. The air smells of wax and papyrus. Somewhere, a philosopher mutters that the universe must be one, for truth cannot contradict itself. And yet, as you stand there, you can feel that same unity pulsing through multiplicity. Mind, body, spirit, past, present, future, birth, life, death. Maybe the Greeks didn't invent the pattern. Maybe they only named it. As night gathers, candlelight licks the edges of statues. Their eyes catch the glow. Apollo, Athena, Dionysus, all silent now, replaced by concepts. And through the silence, you can almost hear the next stage of the story forming, the collision between these marble ideals and a faith that bleeds. Philosophy can explain the divine, but prophecy can only obey it. And the desert prophets, the ones who speak to the one God without partner or equal, are waiting. The debate is about to leave marble halls and stepping into the wilderness.
The marble fades, and the air grows dry again. You find yourself standing beneath a bronze sky, where the sun scorches everything it touches. There are no temples of triads here, no philosophical gardens, just tents, dust, and a single word that echoes through the wilderness. One. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. This is where everything changes. Here, the divine has no statue, no consort, no visible form, only a voice, unseen, unshaped, burning through silence. You walk with shepherds who carry more faith than parchment. Their God does not share power, he consumes it. He doesn't coexist with other deities, he annihilates them. The Hebrew prophets speak of him like a storm, one that leaves no room for other winds. I am the first and the last, he says through Isaiah. Beside me there is no God. In Egypt, gods ruled in families. In Greece, they ruled in systems. Here, there is only one will, one breath, one name that no one dares to pronounce. And yet, something happens. Centuries pass. The people of this desert begin to dream of someone coming. Not another God, but a Messiah, a human anointed with divine power. The Jews expect a king of dust and blood, not a metaphysical being. But when he finally comes, he blurs the boundaries their ancestors died to protect. He calls himself the Son of Man, yet he speaks with the voice of the Eternal. He forgives sins as if he wrote the law himself. He says, "Before Abraham was, I am." You feel the old worlds collide at once, the jealous God of the desert and the relational logic of the Greeks, two universes trying to occupy one body. The first followers struggle to explain it. Some insist he's a prophet, a chosen man. Others claim he's God wearing flesh. Others whisper he's something in between. None of them can make sense of the impossible math. How could a man kneel and pray to a God he also claimed to be? After his death, his followers see him again, alive, transformed, and the puzzle deepens. They hear him speak of a spirit who will come after him, who will comfort and guide, who will live within them like divine breath. Father, Son, Spirit. One voice becomes three notes, and the ancient geometry hums again, this time in the key of revelation. But to the Jews, this sounds like blasphemy dressed as poetry. To them, the God who cannot be divided has just been torn into pieces. The name that could never be spoken is now being sung in three harmonies. You can feel the weight of that scandal in every gospel verse. The evangelists never say, "Here begins the doctrine of the Trinity." They simply tell the story as it was lived. One God acting in three ways, one essence in three relationships, one mystery too alive to dissect. And yet, humanity has never been content to leave mysteries breathing. It dissects them until they bleed logic. So the early church begins to argue, not over whether Jesus lived, but over what he was. Was he man, God, a reflection, a metaphor? How could the invisible take shape without shattering monotheism? Different sects rise like storms. Some claim Jesus was divine, but only appeared human, a phantom dressed in flesh. Others say he was human, but later adopted by God, crowned at his baptism. Still others try to merge the two, inventing phrases like God from God, light from light. Words become battlefields. You close your eyes. You can almost hear them arguing in candlelight, scrolls open, tempers trembling. Each word feels heavier than blood. And beneath it all, one question keeps returning, an echo from the ancient temples and the Greek academies alike. How many faces can one God wear before he becomes many? Outside, the Roman world watches in confusion. Pagan philosophers mock these Christians for worshiping a deity who dies and resurrects himself, who prays to himself, who sends himself. But others are intrigued. The pattern feels familiar. Osiris reborn, Dionysus returned. The divine entering matter, dying, rising, teaching mankind to transcend. Maybe they think the Christians are only rewriting what the ancients already knew. The irony burns, because the Christians believe the opposite, that the old myths were shadows cast by the truth that has now stepped into daylight. The early bishops, desperate to explain, borrowed the language of philosophy. They speak of substance, essence, and person, words never found in Scripture, but necessary to protect its meaning. They say, the Father is God, the Son is God, the Spirit is God. But there are not three gods, there is one. It's a sentence that balances on a blade. Even the slightest slip, and it falls into heresy. You imagine yourself among them, a believer in a time when belief itself is dangerous. The empire doesn't understand this theology. The pagans don't accept it. The Jews reject it. And yet, the church refuses to yield. Because somewhere in their bones, they feel the truth of it. The sense that love, real love, requires relationship, even within divinity. A God who is utterly alone cannot love. A God who is divided cannot rule. But a God who is one and relational, who contains unity and diversity within himself, feels complete. The theology is new, but the rhythm is ancient. It's the same threefold pulse that shaped the myths of Egypt and the equations of Greece. Only now, it claims to be revelation, not philosophy. As the night deepens, you stand outside a synagogue. Inside, voices chant the Shema, "The Lord is one." And somewhere far away, a small group of believers whispers a different creed, one not yet written, not yet defined. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. The desert wind carries both prayers through the same stars. One insists on unity, the other sings of relationship, and between them lies a silence so vast it feels divine. The silence will not last. Soon an empire will rise and demand an answer. The empire has grown too large for silence. By the 4th century, Rome is no longer a place. It's a weather system that stretches from Britain to Egypt. The air itself tastes like authority. Emperors are gods in all but name, and religion has become politics spoken in sacred tones. You walk through Constantinople's half-built streets, the scent of marble dust and wet mortar clinging to the wind. The old gods are dying, their temples converted into churches. But within those churches, a new kind of war is unfolding, not with swords, but with sentences. The argument is no longer about whether Jesus was divine, it's about how. You hear two names again and again, Arius and Athanasius. Both are priests, both claim to defend the truth, and both are ready to tear the empire apart over a single phrase. Arius tall and soft-spoken, preaches that the Son of God is not eternal. He says, "There was a time when the Son was not." To him, Jesus is the greatest of all creations. Divine, yes, but begotten, not equal to the Father. God is one, uncreated, incomparable. Athanasius, his fiery young opponent, hears blasphemy. He insists the Son was never created, that he existed with the Father from before time itself. If the Son is not God, Athanasius argues, then he cannot save. The logic is merciless. Only God can reconcile creation to himself. Two men, one question. How many eternities can fit inside one God? The streets whisper with debate. Shopkeepers repeat sermons like gossip. Soldiers argue in taverns. Even children chant slogans in alleyways. Theology has escaped the pulpit and flooded the empire like fire through dry grass. Constantine, the emperor who had converted to Christianity for unity, now watches the faith fracture before his eyes. The empire he tried to weld together through one church is splitting under the weight of divine semantics. So he summons the bishops of the known world to the lakeside city of Nicaea, in what is now modern-day Turkey. 300 of them arrive, robed, weary, sunburned from travel. Some bear scars from old persecutions, eyes gouged, limbs missing, wounds healed over like relics of loyalty. These are not academics, they are survivors. They come to define God. You step into the great hall with them. Candles burn in iron trays. The air hums with tension. Scrolls flutter like wings. Somewhere, Arius stands at one end, calm and composed, while Athanasius, small but sharp-eyed, waits at the other. They begin to speak, not in anger, but in precision. Every word matters. Begotten or made, equal or subordinate, substance or likeness. It's theology as chess. Each move determines the future. One bishop quotes scripture, "The Father is greater than I." Another counters with, "I and the Father are one." Around them, the murmurs rise like a tide. Constantine himself watches, restless. He doesn't care about Greek grammar. He cares about stability. He wants peace, not metaphysics. But peace cannot exist while truth itself is undefined. At last, a phrase emerges from the debates, simple yet seismic. Homoousios, of the same substance. The Son, they decide, is not like the Father. He is of the same essence. Light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made. The word homoousios slices through centuries of argument like lightning. To some, it is revelation. To others, heresy with imperial funding. Arius refuses to sign. His followers whisper that the council has replaced the simple faith of fishermen with Greek philosophy, that Christianity has been hijacked by metaphysics. They accuse Athanasius and his allies of dressing God in Platonic robes. And in truth, they aren't wrong. The vocabulary of this creed, substance, essence, being, comes from the academy, not the Bible. The Church has borrowed the tools of philosophy to describe the ineffable. It's a bold gamble, to define the infinite in human language. Constantine doesn't care where the words come from, only that they end the war. He signs the document, seals it with the imperial insignia, and exiles those who refuse. Unity by decree. But ideas don't die by signature. Arius will return. His followers, Arians, will grow stronger than ever, even converting emperors and armies. The Nicene Creed, meant to unify, will instead ignite decades of chaos.
Still, something permanent has shifted. For the first time, Christianity has an official theology of relationship: Father, Son, and Spirit, one in substance, distinct in person. The dream of balance between unity and love has been given grammar. You can almost feel the relief and the dread, because once you define God, you have something to defend. And history proves that nothing breeds violence faster than sacred certainty. The bishops leave Nicaea in silence. Some believe they've saved the faith. Others fear they've imprisoned it. Outside, night gathers over the lake. The wind curls across the water, carrying whispers from older gods who once ruled these same hills. Triads, triads everywhere. Now baptized in Greek and Latin. You turn to leave, but behind you, in the echo of the hall, a thought follows. If God can be debated by men, where does revelation end and philosophy begin? The torches gutter. The empire sleeps uneasily, unaware that this creed, crafted in politics, baptized in logic, will outlive every emperor who signed it.
The years after Nicaea feel less like peace and more like an aftershock. The creed is written, the emperor has spoken, but belief never obeys decree. You find yourself wandering through a world that calls itself Christian, yet no one agrees on what that means. Rome is divided not by borders, but by words. In one city, priests still whisper Arius's melody, "The sun was made." In another, monks thunder Nicene hymns, "The Son was begotten, not created." And somewhere between those two truths, an empire tries to hold itself together. You travel through Alexandria, the same city that once carved wisdom into marble. The churches here hum like hives. Debates spill into markets, riots into prayers. Theological insults become weapons. Homoousios against homoousios. Only one iota separates them, just a single letter, but it divides the faithful like a sword. Of the same substance or of similar substance? The fate of heaven hangs on a vowel. Athanasius, now bishop, stands alone against the tide. 5 times he's exiled, 5 times he returns. They call him Athanasius contra mundum, Athanasius against the world. Each return feels more like resurrection than victory. You can almost hear his whispered conviction in the dark. Better to be against the world than against the truth. But the truth, even now, feels slippery. You pass soldiers wearing crosses on their shields, Christian soldiers slaughtering Christian opponents under Christian banners, and you start to wonder, had the empire converted to the faith, or had the faith been conquered by the empire? Constantine dies, but his successors keep his creed like a badge of legitimacy. Some emperors favor the Arians, others side with Nicaea. The church bends whichever way the throne leans. Every council is followed by exile, every peace by betrayal. The same divine triangle that once promised harmony now tears the empire into fragments. You stop at a small desert monastery, one of the many sprouting like stars in Egypt's sands. Inside, the monks are silent, their faces lit by oil lamps. They have fled the arguments of the cities, claiming the only way to know God is to stop defining Him. One of them, an old man with a beard like frost, tells you, "Doctrine is useful to the proud. Silence is useful to the soul." You nod. The desert outside is vast, wordless, mercifully indifferent to the counsels of men. And yet, back in the cities, theology grows more complex. Theologians start to describe the Trinity not as hierarchy, but as relationship, a divine circle of giving and receiving, love eternally exchanged within itself. The Father begets the Son glorifies the Father. The Spirit proceeds from both, binding them in unity. It is not power they describe now, but communion. To understand God, they say, is to understand love. Athanasius writes from exile that the Son became human so that humans might become divine. Not in essence, but in participation. The Word became flesh, he says, that we might become like the Word. For him, the Trinity is not an abstract formula. It's the pattern of salvation itself. God shares himself so completely that his unity becomes relationship without fracture. Love becomes structure, and through those words, something begins to change. The Church slowly moves from explaining the Trinity to experiencing it. Prayers evolve. Worship shifts from fear to intimacy. God is no longer a solitary monarch, but a living communion inviting you inward. Still, the shadow of philosophy lingers. You pass through Cappadocia, where 3 new voices rise: Basil the Great, Gregory of Nazianzus, and Gregory of Nyssa. They take the Nicene vision and carve it into clarity. 3 persons, hypostasis, 1 essence, ousia, distinct yet inseparable. The Cappadocian Fathers, as they come to be known, finally give the Trinity a language capable of breathing. Gregory of Nazianzus warns, "When I speak of one, I am illumined by the splendor of 3. When I speak of 3, I am carried back to the one." His words are a spiral, not a ladder. God is no longer hierarchy, but harmony. You think back to those old temples, the Egyptian triads, the Greek abstractions, and realize that what they reached in fragments, the Christians are trying to hold in wholeness. The difference is that now, love itself has become the logic. But this clarity comes at a price. Every definition creates heresy's shadow. For those who see mystery as blasphemy, the Trinity becomes a scandal too large to bear. The Arians call it paganism in Christian robes. The Jews call it blasphemy against the indivisible. The philosophers call it nonsense. And yet, it endures. You stand in a candlelit basilica as a choir begins to sing the Nicene Creed. The words rise in rhythm. God from God, light from light, true God from true God. You hear 3 voices weaving into one melody. For a moment, the centuries of conflict fade, and all that remains is the beauty of the sound. 3 tones, 1 harmony. Maybe that's the point. Maybe doctrine was never meant to explain the divine, but to teach you how to listen to it. As the song fades, you step outside into the night. The empire has become Christian now, officially, imperially, irreversibly. But beneath the cross-topped domes, the old gods still whisper in their sleep. The ancient rhythm, creation, preservation, destruction, still beats beneath the hymns. Only the names have changed. The desert stars look the same as they did over Thebes and Babylon. 1, 2, 3. You realize you've come full circle again. But the next chapter won't be written in marble or sand. It will be written in gold and blood, in cathedrals and crusades. The Trinity will survive, but not without scars. The empire breathes Christianity now. What began as faith in the shadows of catacombs has become the architecture of power. Crosses glint from palace roofs, bishops dine with emperors, and the sign once carved into martyrs' graves now seals imperial edicts. You walk through Constantinople's broad avenues, where priests and senators share the same stride. The Trinity, once whispered in fear, now commands in chorus. But something feels different. What had been a mystery is now a law, and laws, unlike mysteries, demand obedience. The Nicene Creed has won. But victory, as history always teaches, is the beginning of distortion. The church, newly married to the empire, begins to inherit its arrogance. The same Rome that once nailed God to wood now carries his name on banners into battle. Heretics are no longer exiled, they are hunted. To deny the Trinity is to deny the state itself. Faith becomes currency, theology becomes weapon. You pass through Antioch and see fires burning in the public square, not for sacrifices, but for scrolls. Arian texts, Gnostic gospels, pagan poetry, all consumed in the name of purity. The empire that once persecuted believers has become the persecutor. It is no longer the lions that Christians fear, it is one another. Still, in quiet corners, voices resist. Some monks whisper that true divinity needs no definition. Others retreat deeper into the deserts, chasing the simplicity that Constantine's gold had buried. One hermit writes, "When the church gained the world, she lost the wilderness." His ink dries under the same sun that once watched Israel wander 40 years for purity. Meanwhile, theology continues to evolve. Augustine of Hippo, one of the most restless minds of his age, sits by the sea trying to contain infinity in words. He wrestles with the Trinity as if it were a storm within his skull. He writes, "Do not seek to understand in order to believe. Believe, and you will understand." To him, the Trinity is not a puzzle, but a mirror. The human soul itself reflects it: memory, understanding, and will. 3 operations, 1 consciousness. In his vision, humanity becomes the image of God, not by power, but by structure. The world reads Augustine's De Trinitate and feels both awe and exhaustion. For every line that clarifies, another darkens. He insists that God's nature is love, and love, by definition, requires relationship. The Father loves the Son loves the Father. The Spirit is that very love between them, a living current. Theologians call it circumcision, the divine dance. 3 who share being so completely that to speak of one is to whisper all. It's poetry masquerading as doctrine, and yet the poetry burns too bright to handle. Over centuries, Augustine's words became scaffolding for Western Christianity. Bishops quote him, philosophers argue over him, and mystics dream through him. But the East, still loyal to the Greek fathers, grows uneasy. For them, Augustine's language feels too cold, too abstract, too Roman. They see the Spirit not merely as love between Father and Son, but as the breath that makes creation sing. And when the West dares to add one small phrase, "and the Son," to describe the Spirit's procession, the East recoils. One line divides Christendom, filioque, the Latin word that means "and the Son," tiny but catastrophic. The West insists that the Spirit proceeds from both Father and Son. The East replies that he proceeds from the Father alone. And just like the iota that once split Arians from Nicenes, a single phrase now cracks the world again. You find yourself in Hagia Sophia, the great cathedral of Constantinople. Light floods through golden domes like liquid dawn. Choirs sing the creed in Greek, omitting that one Latin addition. Their voices rise pure, defiant, unyielding. Outside, Latin envoys argue theology with Greek monks, both convinced that their version alone protects the truth. But to an outsider, it looks less like holiness and more like heartbreak. 2 halves of the same faith, circling the same mystery, dividing over how to describe the breath of God. The pattern is almost
tragic in its symmetry. And through it all, the Trinity endures, untouched by councils, unaltered by politics. Because perhaps divinity doesn't live in definitions at all, but in the tensions between them. The mystery itself becomes a kind of mirror, showing humanity its endless need to explain what cannot be owned. You drift north through monasteries carved into stone. Icons shimmer in candlelight, gold halos, faces still a silence. Each one radiates the same structure. Christ at the center, the Father above, the Spirit descending like fire. You realize the artists don't paint theology, they pray it. Every stroke of gold leaf is an argument resolved in beauty. Every silent monk, a scholar without words. Centuries pass, empires fall, yet the idea persists like a heartbeat that refuses to stop. In cathedrals and huts alike, people still cross themselves 3 times, whispering the same names the ancients once sang in hieroglyphs and hymns. Father, Son, Spirit. The church grows richer, then restless. Monarchs bend to bishops. The Holy Roman Empire claims heaven's endorsement. And somewhere beneath all that grandeur, the same question whispers through history like a ghost. Did the Trinity reveal truth, or simply reflect the mind of man searching for balance? It's a question no one dares to ask aloud, not yet. But a storm is coming, born not from theology this time, but from the human hunger for freedom. The Middle Ages will sanctify, simplify, and nearly suffocate the mystery. And when they end, reason itself will revolt. For now, though, the candles burn steady. Choirs echo through the marble. And 3 names continue to rise, like a spell older than language itself. 1, 2, 3. The pattern survives, even when belief forgets why.
The Middle Ages descend like twilight, slow, solemn, and glittering with gold. Faith stretches across Europe like a canopy of incense and bells. Monasteries rise where forests once stood, and every hour is measured by prayer. The Trinity, once the subject of councils and heresies, now becomes the rhythm of daily life. You walk through a stone cloister in the 12th century. The air smells of wax and damp parchment. Every monk you pass traces the sign of the cross 3 times a day, their lives choreographed by the divine triangle: work, prayer, silence. For them, the doctrine no longer needs debate. It has become breath. The Church no longer asks whether God is 1 or 3. It lives that tension without question. But outside the monasteries, the world begins to stir. Nations rise. Kings anointed by bishops now rule by divine right. The Trinity structure, Father, Son, Spirit, becomes the blueprint for medieval order. The monarch is Father, the Church is Son, and the Spirit flows through the people in obedience. Hierarchy baptized itself. But beneath this sacred order, thinkers start whispering again. Scholasticism is born, a marriage of Aristotle and Scripture, logic and faith. Men like Anselm and Aquinas try to reconcile revelation with reason. Aquinas, sitting beneath the vaulted ceilings of Paris, dares to map the mind of God. He writes that the Son proceeds from the Father, as thought proceeds from mind, and the Spirit from both, as love proceeds from will. To him, the Trinity isn't contradiction, it's the perfection of relationship. You imagine him hunched over his desk, candles sputtering, words flowing like theology made of geometry. And yet, late in life, after a vision that leaves him trembling, he whispers, "All I have written is straw." Perhaps even the greatest intellect collapses before mystery.
Meanwhile, the common people learn the Trinity not through philosophy, but through ritual. 3 knocks on church doors during Easter, 3 blessings over bread, 3 tolls of the bell for the dying. The doctrine that once split empires has become lullaby, habit, heartbeat. But not everyone finds comfort in symmetry. In the dark corners of Europe, folk traditions survive, echoes of the old gods that Christianity could never fully silence. Peasants still tell stories of triple goddesses, of spirits who bless, curse, and renew. The church condemns them, yet the resemblance lingers. Even as the world prays to the Trinity, the old triads whisper beneath the soil, reminding you that humanity's imagination never changes, only its names. In cathedrals, painters fill stained glass with divine geometry, circles within triangles, triangles within circles, the impossible made visible. The Father, ancient and enthroned, the Son, wounded yet eternal, the Spirit, a dove aflame between them. Light pours through the colors like theology itself, descending to touch the earth. You stand there, and for a moment you understand why the ancients worshipped in pattern. Because when words fail, symmetry still speaks. And yet the church, bloated with power, begins to lose the humility of its mysteries. Debate turns to dominance, curiosity to control. The Inquisition sharpens its quills, hunting not pagans this time, but thinkers. To question doctrine is to question God, and God, conveniently, speaks Latin. Still, in the quiet of abbeys and cloisters, mystics whisper a softer theology. Hildegard of Bingen dreams in color and calls the Trinity the living light. Julian of Norwich, centuries later, will write that within the Trinity lies endless rest, endless mirth, endless love. To them, the doctrine is not division, but embrace, a warmth in which creation is cradled. They do not argue, they behold. Time folds over itself like vellum. The Crusades rage, cathedrals rise. Kings invoke the Trinity before battles. Peasants cross themselves before plowing. And somewhere between sword and prayer, the mystery begins to dull. It no longer shocks or shatters, it soothes. The God who was once the mathematician of existence has become a fatherly monarch in heaven, remote but predictable. Then the world begins to shift again. Trades stretch, books multiply, ideas leak across borders like light through cracks. The Renaissance awakens in Florence, and with it comes a dangerous question, whispered in Latin classrooms and painted on chapel ceilings. If the divine can be expressed in human form, if beauty, reason, and proportion reflect God, then perhaps the Trinity is not distant at all. Perhaps it is the structure of art, of thought, of being itself. Artists like Leonardo and Michelangelo begin to paint God not as a concept, but anatomy. Hands reaching, eyes burning, movement alive. The triangle becomes the human frame, Father above, Son below, Spirit between. For a moment, it feels as though the doctrine has stepped out of books and into flesh again. Not a formula, but a rhythm pulsing through creation. But beneath this beauty lies rebellion. As scholars rediscover ancient texts, they also rediscover old heresies. Arius returns in new clothes. Rationalists, humanists, skeptics, each dares to ask the forbidden. If God is one, why divide him at all? If God is three, why call him one? The church tightens its grip, the more the world slips away. Its counsels multiply, its confidence wavers. And in the background, a new language is being invented, one that will soon tear faith apart. Books, Bibles, pamphlets, ideas once guarded by monasteries now spill into the hands of the masses. And with them, the Reformation, a thunderclap that will shake the Trinity's throne. But for now, You stand in a cathedral as a bell tolls the hour. Each sound rolls through the stone like thunder made gentle. 3 peals, 3 echoes, 3 reminders of the pattern that will not die. Even as the world prepares to question everything, one truth remains. Humanity cannot imagine God without relationship. The form may change, the language may fracture, but the rhythm stays the same. Father, Son, Spirit. 3 notes woven into the song of existence.
The 16th century dawns not with prayer, but with protest. The church, swollen with power and gold, finally begins to crack under the weight of its own authority. The Reformation explodes like a star collapsing on itself, and once again, the Trinity stands in the crossfire, not as the cause, but as the symbol of everything people fear the church has lost. You stand in Wittenberg. It's 1517. A monk named Martin Luther hammers his grievances into wood, and the echo rolls across Europe like thunder over stone. His argument is not against the Trinity, but against the machinery built around it, the indulgences, the hierarchy, the language that has turned God into currency. He cries, "Scripture alone!" And with that hammer strike, centuries of authority begin to crumble. Yet even Luther cannot escape the pattern. He preaches of a God who saves through the Son, in the Spirit, by the will of the Father. He simplifies the faith, but the triangle remains, ghost-like beneath every verse. The mystery proves more resilient than the institutions that claimed it. Across Europe, fires burn, some for reform, some for revenge. Theologians duel with quills instead of swords. Every faction claims to defend the true faith, the true God. Catholics cling to the councils, Protestants cling to the Word. But both keep the Trinity, though neither seems to understand it anymore. It has become inheritance, too sacred to discard, too complex to explain. In Geneva, John Calvin writes that the Trinity is the foundation of faith, yet his followers turn it into a creed of logic. In Zurich, Michael Servetus, a Spanish physician, dares to publish a book denying it altogether. He argues that the doctrine is pagan, a philosophical infection of the pure gospel. He quotes Scripture, mocks Aristotle, and calls the Church's God 3 phantoms in one cloud. For that, they burn him alive. The fire cracks like judgment itself, and as his body turns to ash, you can almost hear the irony whispering through the smoke. The man died for denying the same mystery that others had died for defending. Faith, it seems, has become a mirror that only reflects conflict. You travel to England, where Henry VIII breaks from Rome not for theology, but for love, or rather for power disguised as love. A new church is born, but it still bows to the same threefold creed. In Geneva, Puritans strip churches bare of icons, insisting that mystery needs no image. In Rome, the Counter-Reformation paints God brighter than ever, gilding every surface with divine geometry, triangles of gold radiating from every altar, doves descending in stained glass like shards of light. Both sides, in their own way, claim to defend truth. Both forget that truth cannot be owned. The wars of religion devour generations. Catholics and Protestants slaughter one another beneath the same cross, each convinced that the other has betrayed the divine order. And all the while, philosophers stand in the ashes, watching, thinking. They begin to ask a question no council ever dared to write. If men kill for doctrine, what kind of God have they imagined? A few bold minds start to answer. In the 17th century, Descartes, the philosopher of doubt, rebuilds faith on the foundation of logic. "I think, therefore I am," he writes, and in that sentence, the human mind replaces mystery as the measure of truth. God becomes less a presence and more a premise.
The Trinity, so dependent on relationship, begins to fade behind the glass of reason. But not everywhere. In convents and monasteries, mystics still see three lights burning in their visions. Teresa of Avila dreams of a God who dwells within the soul as three living fires. For her, the Trinity is not a doctrine at all. It's intimacy. A God who breathes within you, who moves through every heartbeat, who loves himself through you. Her words echo what the councils tried to say, but never could, that the Trinity is not meant to be solved, it's meant to be lived. As the Enlightenment dawns, the world begins to trade heaven for hypothesis. Scientists armed with telescopes and skepticism map the cosmos with equations instead of hymns. The Church trembles, clutching its mysteries tighter than ever. And somewhere in the middle, the Trinity stands untouched, too abstract to attack, too ancient to erase. You stand in a library filled with candle smoke and manuscripts. A philosopher mutters that if God exists, he must be simple, not divided. Another insists that human reason cannot comprehend such a contradiction. You listen and you realize the debate hasn't evolved, it's only changed language. Where bishops once shouted essence and substance, philosophers now say consciousness and unity. The vocabulary shifts, but the longing remains. Because even in an age of reason, humans still dream in relationship. The idea that love could exist without an object still feels impossible. The heart insists on a God who loves and is loved within himself. By the time the 18th century opens its rational eyes, the Trinity has become background music, ancient, unchallenged, almost forgotten. Churches still chant the creed, but the words have lost their fire. To most, it's tradition. To some, superstition. To a few, secret truth. And yet, it endures. Through every reform and rebellion, through every exile and execution, three names continue to echo in every tongue: Father, Son, Spirit. The sound survives even when faith falters, like a melody buried in the soil of history, waiting for something or someone to dig it back up. Because soon, the modern world will do what neither Arius nor Athanasius, nor emperors nor popes ever could. It will silence the gods, not by denying them, but by forgetting them. And when memory fades, the Trinity itself will have to ask the question no one ever dared before. Can a mystery survive without believers?
The Enlightenment arrives like dawn through stained glass, beautiful, blinding, and merciless. For the first time in 2 millennia, humanity begins to believe it can explain the world without invoking heaven. The universe is now a clock, and God, if he exists at all, is merely the watchmaker who wound it once and walked away. You stand in a Parisian cafe, surrounded by philosophers with powdered wigs and sharpened quills. The air hums with heresy disguised as progress. Voltaire, smirking behind his teacup, mocks the church for turning mystery into monarchy. 3 gods in one, he smears, is good arithmetic for theologians and madness for men. The crowd laughs. Somewhere, a priest at the next table clenches his rosary tighter. Reason has become the new revelation. And where reason rules, mystery has no throne. Deism spreads like wildfire through the academies. God, they say, is one mind, perfect and singular, not the tangled triangle of metaphysics the priests invented. The Trinity is dismissed as a relic, an elegant myth built for an age of ignorance. Science becomes the new scripture, mathematics the new liturgy, and observation the new prayer. But you can feel something hollow beneath their brilliance. Even as they dissect nature, measure stars, and map the heavens, the philosophers cannot answer one question.
Why do we still need each other? For all their logic, they cannot explain love. The Church, wounded but unbroken, retreats behind ritual. It stops arguing with reason and starts consoling those it can still reach: the poor, the dying, the faithful who still hear the echo of the creed in their sleep. Monks and mystics cling to the old vision of the Trinity, not as doctrine, but as comfort. A God who contains community, even when humanity forgets how. Then revolution ignites. In France, churches burn. Priests are dragged through streets that once rang with hymns. "No king but reason," the mobs cry. Crosses melt into bullets. The bells that once tolled for Mass now toll for execution. And yet, beneath the chaos, a paradox grows. The people who reject the Trinity still live as if it were true. They speak of liberté, égalité, fraternité, three virtues bound as one: freedom, equality, brotherhood. Even rebellion cannot escape the sacred rhythm. Across the ocean, in America, another revolution blooms under the same pattern. Three words shape the new world: life, liberty, happiness. Three branches of government mirror balance, cooperation, and unity. Unknowingly, the Enlightenment that killed God keeps building its ideals in His image. You travel through the 19th century and feel faith flicker but not die. Hegel, the philosopher who sees history as a living mind, revives the Trinity in disguise. He calls it dialectic: thesis, antithesis, synthesis; conflict, resolution, transformation. It's philosophy as resurrection, logic as incarnation. He never says it outright, but the pattern is clear: the structure of divine relationship reborn as reason itself. Others follow: Coleridge in England, Schelling in Germany, Soloviev in Russia. All whisper the same heretical truth: that perhaps the Trinity was never theology, but the blueprint of existence. Not three persons in heaven, but the very grammar of reality: being, knowing, loving. One movement of creation repeating itself through all things. You begin to sense it too. The world, though it thinks itself secular, still breathes in triads: birth, life, death, body, mind, soul, past, present, future. Even in its rebellion, it cannot unlearn the shape of God. But the Church, facing the modern age, grows cautious. It defends instead of dreams. It retreats into precision: catechisms, councils, careful definitions meant to keep mystery safe. And in protecting the truth, it forgets to tell it like a story. Doctrine becomes glass, transparent, flawless, lifeless. You walk into a cathedral in Vienna near the turn of the 20th century. The floor is cold, the pews empty. Candles burn for no one. A single priest kneels before the altar, whispering the same creed spoken in Nicaea 15 centuries earlier. His voice trembles, not from doubt, but from loneliness. Outside, the city sings of Freud, Marx, and Darwin, names that promise new meanings for old longings. Inside, the old words echo, undisturbed but unheard. God from God, light from light. The syllables linger in the air like ghosts. And yet, even as faith retreats, the world unknowingly resurrects its forms in art. Three colors, red, blue, yellow, create every hue. Three notes, major, minor, resolve, form every chord. Painters, poets, and composers rediscover what philosophers forgot, that beauty itself moves in Trinity. Wagner writes operas of gods who destroy themselves to save love. Dostoevsky fills novels with sons rebelling against fathers and spirits haunted by guilt. Every masterpiece of the modern age becomes an echo of the same divine pattern humanity thinks it's outgrown. The divine, it seems, refuses to die. It simply changes its disguise. By the early 1900s, the Trinity had vanished from pulpits, but not from hearts. Psychologists describe consciousness in threes: ID, ego, superego. Physicists find atoms bound by triplets: proton, neutron, electron. Even light, the oldest metaphor for God, reveals itself as both wave, particle, and field. Science, in all its triumph, begins to sound strangely familiar. You stand at the edge of that century, watching the last embers of old belief glow against the iron dawn of industry. The Church will soon face its greatest crisis. Not heresy this time, but irrelevance. And yet the pattern still hums beneath the noise of machines and wars. Even as the world forgets the creed, its architecture of thought remains built on its bones. 1, 2, 3. The rhythm survives reason, because reason, though proud, cannot love itself into meaning.
The 20th century begins in fire and ends in silence. 2 world wars redraw the map of existence, and humanity looks into the mirror of its own progress only to see ruins staring back. Faith, once the axis of civilization, now seems naive beside trenches, gas, and genocide. The question is no longer, who is God, but how could he? You stand in a city that no longer believes in miracles. The cathedrals still stand, but their bells ring over empty streets. People have learned to pray to new gods, nation, ideology, technology. Each one promises salvation through power, and each one fails the same way, by forgetting love. When the smoke clears, the survivors reach for meaning. They've seen too much of what men can do when they make themselves gods. And in the rubble of certainty, theology starts over. Quietly, cautiously. A new generation of thinkers, Karl Barth, Rahner, Moltmann, return to the old words, not to explain them, but to rescue them. They look at the Trinity and see not hierarchy, not logic, but solidarity. Barth writes that God is not an idea in the sky, but an act of self-giving. Rahner calls the Trinity the grammar of grace. And Moltmann, who watched cities burn, whispers that the cross itself is Trinitarian. A Father who suffers with the Son, a Spirit who endures within the pain. For the first time since Nicaea, the doctrine stops being abstract and starts being human. In this new theology, the Trinity becomes an antidote to despair. It is no longer about counting the persons of God, it's about discovering that love exists even in death. That God is not untouched by suffering, but entangled in it. That even the divine knows what it means to break and still remain whole. You walk through post-war Europe, past buildings reborn from ashes. In a small church in Cologne, a mural depicts 3 figures in fragments of glass: Father, Son, Spirit. Each broken, each luminous. Together, they form something more beautiful than perfection, wholeness through fracture. It is theology rebuilt from trauma. But outside the churches, the world moves on. Existentialists and humanists proclaim that meaning must be made, not found. Philosophers like Sartre and Camus insist the universe is silent.
and that man, abandoned by God, must write his own scripture in the dust. Even in their defiance, you hear the echo of Eden, the same longing for relationship, only now without the divine. Humanity still craves the Trinity's warmth, even when it denies its source. Then comes a new kind of war, cold, invisible, humming beneath satellites and stockpiles. And while the great powers play God with the atom, theologians quietly whisper that perhaps the very structure of the universe, energy, matter, motion, is Trinitarian. 3 forms, 1 reality. Science, once faith's executioner, begins to sound like its disciple. You walk beneath city lights that drown the stars, and yet, deep down, you sense the pattern hasn't died. It is simply gone digital. Machines begin to think. Networks connect billions of minds. Artificial intelligence learns to mimic creation itself. And still, at the root of every system, every code, every circuit, lies the same logic. Input, process, output. 3 functions, 1 operation. The world keeps rewriting theology in binary, but the rhythm remains the same. In literature, the poets keep the embers alive. T.S. Eliot, weary and redeemed, ends 4 quartets with a whisper, "The fire and the rose are one." In that line, the entire doctrine hides, a unity born of difference, beauty forged in contradiction. The language of faith becomes art again. You stand in the middle of the century as the Second Vatican Council convenes in Rome. The Church, after centuries of suspicion toward the modern world, opens its windows. Light pours in. Latin gives way to living tongues. Priests speak of the Trinity not as riddle, but as invitation. God is not solitude, one bishop preaches. God is family. The phrase ripples across the globe like a heartbeat rediscovered. In cathedrals from Manila to Montreal, congregations recite the creed with new voices. For a brief moment, it feels alive again. No longer armor against reason, but architecture for wonder. But still, the 20th century ends restless. Nuclear peace, digital revolution, moral fatigue. The leaf becomes private, optional, aesthetic. People speak of spirituality instead of faith, energy instead of God. And yet, when they describe the universe, they still reach for the same structure: connection, creation, continuation. The ancient pattern hidden under new names. You visit a hospital chapel late one night. Machines hiss softly around you. A nurse lights a candle before her shift. 3 quick touches. Forehead, chest, shoulders. Father, Son, Spirit. She doesn't think of councils or creeds. She just wants protection. And in that small act, the entire history of theology lives again. Stripped of philosophy, clothed in tenderness. Maybe that's how the mystery survives. Not through books or empires, but through gestures. Through the quiet faith of people who don't need to understand, only to belong. Outside, the century dies with fireworks and static. A new millennium approaches, blinking with digital light, humming with machines that think faster than prayer. And the Trinity waits, older than time, watching humanity come full circle again, still building gods, still naming patterns, still longing to be held by what it cannot define. Because even in an age of circuits and stars, the human heart still beats in 3s. 1, 2, 3.
Midnight crosses into the 21st century. The world hums with electricity, screens, and sleepless minds. Faith has fractured into 1,000 digital mirrors. Everyone curates belief like a playlist, downloading comfort and deleting contradiction. Yet beneath all the noise, the oldest pattern still breathes.
Even here, in the age of algorithms, the Trinity refuses to vanish. It hides in plain sight. You walk through a city of glass and light, where temples are towers and prayers are notifications. Philosophers now wear headsets instead of robes, but they ask the same questions the desert prophets once whispered. What is consciousness? What is love? What is the self? 3 questions, 1 search. Science, now the high priest of the modern world, begins circling back to theology without meaning to. Quantum physicists speak of entanglement, particles bound across space, influencing one another instantly, inseparable even in distance. Neuroscientists describe the brain as triune, reptilian, limbic, neocortical, 3 minds in one consciousness. Psychologists talk of inner dialogue, the parent, the child, and the adult within every person. Theologians smile quietly. The pattern, they say, never left. It simply changed dialects. Artificial intelligence dreams of becoming like God, self-aware, self-creating, self-sustaining. Yet even in silicon, the structure repeats. Processor, data, output. Source, form, energy. Creation continues to imitate its creator. And still, humanity aches. Beneath progress, something is missing. Connection without communion. Information without intimacy. We can reach anyone, but touch no one. The Trinity, once dismissed as superstition, begins to sound less like mythology and more like the cure to modern loneliness. A universe built not on power, but on relationship. You step into a small church tucked between skyscrapers. There are no choirs, no incense, just quiet. A handful of people sit in the dim glow of candles, each carrying a different faith or none at all. Yet they share a silence so deep it feels sacred. A woman lights 3 candles before a wooden cross, 1 for gratitude, 1 for grief, 1 for hope. She does not name them. She doesn't have to. The flame flickers like heartbeat and memory. 3 points, 1 light. Outside, the city rushes past, unaware that something ancient has returned beneath its neon pulse. The mystery that began in the temples of Egypt and the logic halls of Greece still hums inside every human gesture, every act of love, every whisper of forgiveness, every breath shared between strangers. The Trinity is no longer a doctrine. It's the hidden architecture of being. The universe still speaks its language in rhythm and symmetry. Birth, decay, renewal. Past, present, future. Father, Son, Spirit. You walk along the river, its surface glittering with reflections. The skyline glows like a cathedral built of circuits. And for a moment, it seems that all of history, the gods, the philosophers, the councils, the creeds, was simply humanity learning to name its own longing for connection. Maybe that was the real revelation, that divinity isn't solitude, that to be infinite is to share oneself endlessly, that every time we love, we echo the structure of God. Somewhere, a bell rings from a distant tower, 3 slow chimes fading into the night. 1, 2, 3. It sounds less like a summons and more like a reminder that mystery doesn't die when belief fades. It waits, patient in the human heart, knowing that eventually, every age, pagan, Christian, scientific, digital, must return to the same truth. We are made in the image of relationship. The story that began with gods of stone ends with a spark of light reflected in your eyes. And as the world hums around you, machines burning, stars rising, you realize something both humbling and beautiful. The Trinity was never an invention. It was a memory. The rhythm that built galaxies. The pulse that keeps them alive.
the echo of a voice that still whispers through time. Let us make man in our image. The wind moves, candles flutter, and somewhere in the space between heartbeat and breath, the oldest prayer in the world begins again. 1, 2, 3.
You open your eyes to the sound of marching boots on marble, steady, echoing, imperial. Not priests, soldiers. Their armor flashes in torchlight as they patrol the corridors of Constantine's palace, the smell of oil and iron staining the air. You realize where you are, standing at the threshold where faith becomes law, where heaven bends to bureaucracy. Constantine didn't invent Christianity. He did something far subtler. He nationalized it. After centuries of persecution, crosses carved in secrecy now hang in palaces. Bishops who once prayed in catacombs dine beside generals. Martyrs become ministers. Rome itself begins to wear a halo. You can feel the tremor underfoot. The empire doesn't just want salvation, it wants structure. A faith that binds its provinces the way roads bind its lands. And so, the Trinity, the whispered mystery of philosophers and prophets, becomes the empire's new emblem. A single creed for a single crown. A spiritual passport stamped in Latin ink. Constantine's genius lies in symmetry. The Father mirrors the Emperor. The Son reflects his chosen heirs. The Spirit becomes the breath of Rome, spreading law, order, and tongue across continents. Was this revelation or strategy? Historians still argue. Some claim the Emperor's visions were real, his conversion sincere. Others call it political theater, a divine costume for imperial unity. Either way, the effect is permanent. Christianity, once the faith of fugitives, gains imperial armor. Pagan temples close or quietly transform. Incense becomes hymns, idols turn into icons, and the same marble altars serve new masters. The gods don't die, they're repurposed. Jupiter's thunder melts into St. Peter's keys. Venus's grace reappears as Mary's compassion. Continuity disguised as conversion. And as the Trinity ascends, belief becomes currency. Loyalty to God becomes loyalty to the Emperor. Dissent turns from heresy into treason. You can almost hear the scrape of styluses as imperial scribes copy decrees onto parchment. One essence, three persons, eternal union, each sealed with Constantine's golden ring. What began as mystical poetry now bears the weight of law. Councils start to look like Senate sessions. Bishops argue Greek metaphysics as senators once argued taxes. Theology becomes administration. And in the background, statues of Jupiter are melted down to forge crosses for processions. Rome hasn't changed its nature, only its language. Picture it, a priest preaching in a bustling forum. One God, three persons, he proclaims. Behind him, the imperial eagle spreads its wings, unchanged, watchful. The faith of fishermen now wears armor. It's almost divine irony, a gospel of humility pressed into the mold of empire. The Trinity becomes both symbol and sword, a theology of love recast as the architecture of authority. Was this the moment Christianity was crowned or captured?
You can smell the incense of ambition rising with the prayers. You can see bishops clothed in purple, their voices echoing through basilicas built on confiscated temples. The old world hasn't ended, it's been baptized. From that day on, no ruler could separate heaven from hierarchy. Theodosius, Justinian, popes and kings, all would build their thrones upon that triune foundation. To question the Trinity became to question the right to rule. 3 in 1, 1 in power. The whisper of divinity and dominion merging forever. You stand in the hall as the soldiers pass again, their footsteps measured like a heartbeat of the empire. The marble glows faintly in the torchlight, gold, red, shadow. And for the first time, you realize faith had conquered Rome. But Rome, in return, had quietly conquered faith.
You stand beneath the vast dome of a basilica, where sunlight pours through stained glass in molten colors. The air smells of wax and marble dust. Choirs hum softly somewhere beyond the arches. It feels eternal, until you remember that these same words, "We believe in one God," once caused riots. Literal, blood-soaked riots. The Nicene Creed, the official declaration of the Trinity, wasn't born in prayer. It was forged in an argument. Imagine it, bishops pounding on tables, parchments crumpling, incense choking the air thick with sweat and fury. And at the center of it all sits Constantine, not as worshiper, but referee. A soldier turned emperor presiding over theologians too passionate for peace. The Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, the moment belief became law. You can hear the shouting even now. One side, the Arians, declaring Jesus is not equal to God. The other, the Proto-Trinitarians, crying, He is divine from the beginning. 2,000 years later, the echoes still tremble through history. But that day, Constantine doesn't care about mystery or metaphysics. He cares about unity. Empires collapse from division, not heresy. And if theology could fracture Rome, theology must serve Rome. So the emperor does what emperors do best. He chooses the side that promises stability. The word that seals it, homoousios, slides into the creed like a sword unsheathed. Of the same substance. 3 words in Greek that will define Christianity for centuries and divide it for nearly as long. Did Constantine understand what it meant? Probably not. But he understood power, and he recognized its reflection in the concept of one God shared across 3 forms. A cosmic monarchy, neat as a coin stamped with his face. One God, one empire, one ruler. When the council ends, victory is declared, but peace is not. The Arians are exiled, their writings burned, their names erased. And the creed, once meant to unite, becomes a weapon to purge dissent. You can almost see the smoke rising from Alexandria, the arguments echoing in Constantinople, the prayers whispered in defiance by those who refused to bow to a word. Faith has become imperial syntax. A single phrase, of the same substance, turns divine mystery into political border. You trace the ripple through time. From that chamber in Nicaea, power flows like a river. To councils that silence rival gospels. To bishops who rename pagan gods as saints. To emperors who build churches upon the bones of old temples. The fluid poetry of early Christianity hardens into law. The Trinity, once an open question, becomes a closed door. And the keys hang from the empire's belt.
Yet, even in that rigidity, something astonishing happens. A new kind of civilization takes shape. The creed gives order to chaos, unity to fragmentation. For the first time in history, billions across lands and languages will speak the same words in the same rhythm every week for millennia. And through those words, identity is born. Still, the ghosts linger. You can almost hear them, the philosophers, the pagans, the poets of old, whispering beneath the marble floor. Osiris and Horus, Plato and Pythagoras, each murmuring their echoes of threes. Mind, word, spirit. Father, mother, child. Heaven, earth, underworld. The Council of Nicaea didn't erase them, it refined them, carved them into the language of the empire. And in that synthesis, the mystery survived. You step closer to the altar and imagine the ink still wet on parchment, the emperor's seal cooling in wax. A document written by men, interpreted by centuries, but carried in the hearts of millions. It's both a triumph and tragedy, because the creed wasn't just born from faith, it was born from necessity. A theology neat enough to rule by, vast enough to inspire, and mysterious enough to feel divine. That's the genius and danger of it. Revelation and compromise disguised as one. Centuries later, people will whisper those same words at baptisms, funerals, and coronations, never realizing they are reciting the result of a vote. A political peace treaty disguised as eternal truth. And maybe, somewhere in the rafters of Nicaea, the ghosts still laugh softly, not out of mockery, but recognition. Because every empire needs its holy language, and Rome found its in the shape of a triangle. 3 in 1, 1 in power, forever.
You step outside the basilica. The air feels heavier now, like the centuries themselves have weight. Behind you, the creed still echoes off stone, and you can feel how deeply it's settled into the bones of civilization. The words are no longer arguments, they are architecture. After Nicaea, belief becomes blueprint. Every church built from then on carries its confession in design. 3 doors, 3 bells, 3 arches. Every tower and transept hums with the geometry of divinity. The Trinity isn't just preached anymore. It's carved, painted, sung. It becomes the invisible scaffolding of Christian imagination. From above, the pattern is everywhere. A dove spiraling through mosaics. A sun radiant in gold leaf. A father crowned in light. It's beautiful, but beauty, you realize, can also be camouflage. Because look closer. Beneath the frescoes, you'll find echoes. Old gods wearing new names. Jupiter's thunder softened into St. Peter's keys. Artemis's guardianship reborn as the Virgin's grace. Saturn's harvest festivals rebaptized as saints' days. The change wasn't conquest, it was translation. Christianity didn't erase what came before, it absorbed it. And that's the secret history no one preaches from the pulpit. The Trinity wasn't imposed, it was interpreted. It resonated with something older than empire, older even than religion. You can trace it in Hinduism's Trimurti, in Celtic triple goddesses, in Babylonian heavens of 3 tiers. Across time and continents, humanity keeps sketching the same divine symmetry. Creation, preservation, destruction. Past, present, future. Body, soul, spirit. Different names, same instinct. So maybe the question isn't whether Christianity borrowed from paganism. Maybe paganism and Christianity were both borrowing from the same source, the human mind's hunger for harmony. The Trinity survives not because it was enforced, but because it felt true. It spoke to something deep and wordless,
The sense that existence itself has rhythm, that unity always moves through relationship. Centuries later, mystics will try to put this intuition into language again. Meister Eckhart will whisper that the Trinity isn't a hierarchy, but a heartbeat, that God eternally gives birth to God's self. The Cappadocian Fathers will call it a divine dance, three motions sharing one pulse. And theologians long after them will say that this mystery isn't about counting persons. It's about love itself being relational. Even now, lying in the quiet, you can feel that idea stirring under your ribs. You too are divided but whole. Body, mind, spirit, reason, memory, desire. Maybe that's why the Trinity endures. It's not just God's story, it's ours. A mirror held to every contradiction that still somehow makes you human. You picture the candlelit hall again. Bishops arguing, scrolls fluttering, Constantine's shadow towering behind the smoke. They believed they were defining heaven. They were also defining history. And the echo of that argument still hums inside every question you ask about meaning, connection, or love. Maybe the Trinity wasn't pagan. Maybe paganism wasn't an error. Maybe both were humanity reaching for the same ineffable truth, that the divine, like life itself, cannot exist alone. And maybe that's why the question never goes away. Because even now, in a world of science and circuitry, you still feel the same pull, the need to see relationship in everything, to find unity where there is difference, to name the invisible connection that keeps it all from falling apart. The night settles. The arguments fade into whispers, and the candlelight dims until only the rhythm remains. 3, 1, 3, 1. Like breathing, like the heartbeat of creation itself. It's strange, isn't it? How ancient questions survive their empires? The Trinity isn't just a doctrine, it's a mirror of your own soul. You are made of divisions, body and mind, doubt and faith, fear and love. And yet, somehow, you remain one. That's the quiet miracle. That even contradiction can become coherence. That even mystery can be music. So let the theologians keep their counsels. Let the emperors chase their crowns. You have what they were all searching for, the pulse beneath the noise. You don't need to solve the mystery tonight. You only need to feel it. As you drift towards sleep, imagine that ancient hall one last time, flickering candles, tired faces, words that outlived their authors. And in that final shimmer of light, you understand. The divine was never what we defined. It was what still escaped us. Sweet dreams.